Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, recent, cutting edge, most important, valuable, and effective, at least that's the aspiration, brain body tools so you could take better control of your brain, of your decisions, of your emotional life, of your actions, and ultimately so you could shape your life experience as close to your desires and dreams and visions as possible. And nothing will help you to shape your life better than designing and setting the right kind of goals and designing the process, which is even more important. Goals, they are super important to design your life path, to get closer to the destination that you'd like to end up at. Goals are super, super important. But what I believe is really missing in the conversation about goals is the process of how to actually achieve the goals. What is a smarter, a better way to put the actions, to put the plan in place based and connected with our goals. So we don't just set the goals, but we actually achieve the outcomes. And so today it is my attempt to give you the goal setting and achieving user manual based on current research and understanding of human behavior change, of human psychology, of the art and science of achievement. And by the end of today's episode, you're going to have the best strategies to set the right kind of goals, to set them in the right way based on, again, on current understanding of science, of psychology, of behavior change, of neuroscience. Set the right kind of goals and put the right kind of processes in place so you have a much higher chance of actually getting to your goals, and by doing so, transforming your life. Because, folks, goals are amazing, but what's the most amazing outcome of the goal is not the goal itself, but the transformation that happens for you when you are on your way, when you're taking a journey towards that goal. So the transformation is the most important part, not the achievement even itself. Even though, of course, achieving our goals is amazing, it's fun, and sometimes it even feels like magic because you didn't have something in your life, a specific outcome, and then you decided to pursue it and you achieved it. That feels almost like magic, like creating something out of nothing, something out of your head into the real world. So without further ado, let's start digging deeper into the process of goal setting and goal achieving. Goals. So where do you start? A lot of people start with goals themselves. They're like, I want X or I want that. But actually, the initial place to start, a much better place to start is asking yourself, why do I want to achieve specific goals? Like, what is important in my life right now? Where do I want to see the change? Where do I want to see the transformation, and why? And how is it connected to who I am, to who I aspire to become, to who I want to be when I grow up, so to speak? So it starts with identity. And what researchers, and experts in goal achieving, in goal setting and transformation, what experts tell us is that identity, connecting your goals to your identity and your bigger why, your bigger purpose, reason, meaning in life, that's what's going to separate, more than anything, people who stick with their goal achievement, especially the more challenging the goal is, the more it's going to be relevant and true. So people who connect their goals to their identity, to their values, to their bigger purpose in life, those are the people who stick with their goals when things get challenging and keep going after their goals, even if it takes years. So first, you got to start with this connection. What areas do I want to improve in my life, and why is it important, and why is it important right now? And then from there, start setting the goals, asking yourself follow-up questions. Okay, I want transformation in this area of my life, my health, my work-life balance, my career, my relationships. And then once you understand what kind of transformation you want, and you ask yourself why, and the why might be the quality of life. It's going to make me feel complete. It's going to make my life meaningful. I will feel happier more days than not. And it just feels true to my soul, to who I am. And once you have this, then you'll start asking yourself follow-up questions to set the actual goals. Okay, what is the outcome in this specific area, health, relationships, career, business, etc.? What is the outcome, more concrete outcome that will represent this stage, this transformation on my journey? And then you start drafting your goals, okay? Perhaps it's achieving certain number of income, like certain financial goal. Perhaps it's achieving certain fitness goals, or certain body transformation goals, like maybe body fat, or maybe it's something more of more adventurous goals where you get the health transformation, but you also perhaps participate in some sort of competition, right, or a race. So that might be a goal. When it comes to your career, perhaps you'd like a promotion or a change of career. You want to take a different direction, and you want to either start a new business or find a new job, or somehow change perhaps industry, and that could be a goal. And so once you have your goals, then we want to we want to turn them into something we can track, into something we can measure, right? Basically answering the question, how will I know if I achieved the goal? That's why, when I work with my clients, so whatever the goal is, learning how to be more productive, learning how to create work-life balance, improving health. That's why I always work on how do I put a number on that goal? How do I make it measurable? SMART goals, like measurable, specific, and time-bound. How would you know that you achieve that goal? Or even more importantly, how would you know if you make progress on that goal? Because usually goals take time. And in order to choose the best strategies, in order to adjust your actions, in order to give yourself a feeling of progress that actually is crucial for motivation, you need to understand whether you're progressing or not. And the only way you can do that if you put specific values, numbers on the goal itself and on the milestones that you're going to create by breaking your bigger, longer goals into smaller chunks, time frame wise, or perhaps other value wise, right? So you need to be able to measure that goal in order to, first of all, make progress, know when you're progressing, when you're not, and to also adjust your strategies, your actions. So your actions are effective and you're not just doing stuff for the sake of doing, even though it might not be bringing you the results that you want. So we set the goal, we make sure that it is measurable, that we know how to know if we are getting closer towards it. And then what's important is to break down that goal into smaller chunks. And the reason why it's important, because what neuroscience research shows us is that when we are at the beginning or close to the end of achieving a goal, we feel more motivated, like our blood pressure actually increases and we feel more dopamine is released, so we feel more motivated. So when we're at the beginning, when we are closer to an end, but the middle kind of sucks. It is the lowest point of motivation. And what experts recommend is then break down the big goal and then make the middle shorter, smaller, so that a lower point of your motivation isn't as long. So you have less chances of quitting or abandoning your goal because you lost motivation. So if you have a yearly goal, break it down into quarterly, into monthly, into weekly. So you have almost every day something to track, something to celebrate, something to achieve almost. If you can break down your goals into daily steps, those might be just actions put in, like for example, workouts or healthy meals or certain exercises to improve your productivity, or certain actions to take to start building up your business. Whatever that might be, if you can break down your bigger goals into smaller and smaller chunks, so the middle is almost non-existent, that will help you to keep your motivation going through the dopamine and other physiological processes that happen when we feel, and by the way, it's not just true for humans, even mice feel more motivated. They work harder for getting a reward when they see that the reward is closer. So whenever the finish line is closer, we work harder, we feel more motivated. But in the middle, motivation kind of sucks physiologically and psychologically. So break the goals down. That is very, very important. Another aspect of goal setting and motivation is that research showed that we feel the most motivated and up for taking on challenges when the goal is not super simple, like we're sure we can achieve it and it's almost like it's boring, and not super outlandish that we feel overwhelmed, like it's too much of a change and we doubt ourselves all the time. But when the goal is a stretch goal, so a little bit outside of our comfort zone, people have different tolerance, what I found in my coaching practice, for the stretch goals. So some people can be good with more challenge and some people need less of a challenge. And usually the more skillful you become at any activity or pursuit of any goal, the more challenge you can tolerate. But experts recommend to create a stretch goal, something that feels slightly outside of your comfort zone, making you feel a little bit challenged and a little bit anxious, putting up this, boosting that adrenaline that helps you to release energy and helps you to push yourself towards achieving that goal, right? So that stretch goal is the optimal goal to keep yourself in that state of energy and motivation. So that's also very, very important. And then not less important is, of course, scheduling the activities, putting the activities on your calendar that lead towards achieving a goal. So a lot of people make a mistake when making New Year resolutions or any sorts of goal setting. So people set the goal, well, I'm going to read, let's say 200 books this year, or I'm going to build up my business to this number, or I'm going to lose that amount of weight. But then people do not follow through immediately with creating better or worse action plan, some plan, and then putting the actions that this plan require on the calendar immediately. Like if you want to change your business, when are you going to do the activities that require for that to happen? When are you going to do lead generation, learning more about a business? When are you going to work on any business specific activities? So you got to figure out what those activities are and then put them on a calendar. How many hours in your experience will this goal require? Like, for example, if you want to study for a specific subject or a certificate, then from your perspective, from your experience, from your knowledge, how many hours will this take? And then you got to schedule those hours. And if you don't, guess what? The goal is not going to happen. The same with weight loss. Okay, you want to lose 10 kilos? That is approximately, I believe, 88,000 of calories that you need to lose over the course, let's say, of, 6 months. And then you got to break down this deficit into months and weeks and days and maintain that deficit on average every single day. And that's how you make sure that you actually put the needed work in to even have a chance to hit this goal. So scheduling the activities, figuring out what activities, how much time those activities will take, and then putting them in your calendar. And sometimes, based on that, you would have to adjust your goal. Like, well, it doesn't seem like a doable goal. Like, if you want to lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks, guess what? Probably not going to happen. Not a good goal. So doing this next step also allows you to ground your goals a little bit in reality. Of course, things like business goals are a little bit more complex, but then you can ask other people, okay, based on your experience, what kind of time frame is good for that specific goal? And of course, go to people with experience in this specific area that you're trying to achieve a goal in. And then perhaps if you'd like to have more ambitious goals, then go to a person who is more ambitious. And that's how you, again, still ground your goals in reality, but also in the kind of reality that you believe will work for you. But then again, it will help you to understand that there is no magic. And if there is no work scheduled for achieving this goal, the goal is almost bound to fail. So don't set yourself up for failure by not figuring out how much work it's going to take and scheduling that work on your calendar. A couple of other things about tracking and tracking the goal as you progress towards achieving it. First of all, especially at the beginning, track the actions, track the work, track the activities, your consistency with putting in the work, because results usually in most areas will lag behind. So to keep yourself motivated, to keep your brain going, to keep your dopamine dripping, to keep yourself feeling energized, you gotta track something. You gotta celebrate something. And in the beginning, it's gonna be your consistency showing up for the work. So have a calendar, have some sort of system to, there is Habitshare app, one of my favorite digital tools to track consistency, that you put the habits that you want to do every day, every other day, and then there is a check mark that you're going to get into the app and you're going to tap it, and it's going to show you, consistency over time. So you can look back at it and like, I showed up yesterday and the day before and maybe for 2 weeks. And I recommend to celebrate those actions, the way you show up. So every time when you complete an action, when you complete a piece, a unit of work towards your goal, that's what you got to celebrate. Because at the end of the day, what's going to define whether you achieve your goal or not is the work that you put in. And so celebrating yourself when you put the work in, that's first going to keep you motivated, going to keep you feeling good about yourself and about your progress, even when the progress, like numerical progress towards a goal, can lag. And then second of all, it will also help your brain to see the amount of effort that you put in, and it's going to boost your confidence as well, because guess what? You showed up. Things might not have worked out just yet, but you showed up, you did the work, and based on your experience and experience of other people and data of people, consistency will always lead to results, especially if you have better strategy, the best strategy that you could have come up with. So it will boost your motivation and it will prevent you from quitting, from doubting yourself more. And also will help you to see that it's not a waste. If, for example, you start exercising and weight loss is not coming, exercise is not a waste. You're still putting in the work, investing into your health. Or, for example, when you do the work, but the financial returns on your business idea have not come yet, but guess what? You're learning skills. You're getting better by putting in the work. And it's still, at the end of the day, compounds and makes a difference and make you better. And as we said at the beginning, the best, the most profound and most important outcome of any goal is the transformation. Even Alex Hormozi says, don't focus on the numbers that much, but understand in those down moments that the most valuable result that you get out of work and getting after your goal is the self-transformation that you get, the different self that you build. So track the actions first, not just, pounds lost or money made, money in your bank account. And of course, track the progress towards your goal, because that will help you more than anything else to adjust your strategies. You might check in with it every week. I recommend doing that, or every other week, and see how your strategies are either effective, helping you to achieve the goal, to get closer to the goal, or not as effective, at which point you look at other strategies. And sometimes, it takes a little bit more time. Maybe you need to go to put actions for a couple of weeks before you can judge whether the strategy is working or not. So make sure that you have good tracking system based on the goal, based on your knowledge and your experience. You can also always consult a lot of other people who might have better experience in that, who will tell you, it's probably not working. Like when I talked to my sister entrepreneur and I told her about my lead generation strategies, and I told her how many people I was reaching out to and how much response and results I got. She's like, well, it's not working. Your percentage is way lower. So you need to change something. And at that point, I'm like, okay, somebody with experience says that it might be a better idea to change something. And so I did. And that's where feedback is so crucial. So don't just sit in your head for years with your goal, trying to achieve it and failing, but also talk to other people about that specific goal and ask for advice, ask for strategies, ask for help. But track the progress, not to keep yourself happy, but to adjust the strategies so you have more chances of achieving your goal faster and with less resources spent. And the last pieces of advice based on research is, at some point of achieving your goal or working on your goal, you're going to have two feelings. Feeling overwhelmed with how much work you need to do or how much harder the goal actually is. And also boredom. Like you're doing the same things or similar things and the goal is moving slower, or just so much to do yet and you're kind of bored, and you know what I mean with the work. Like you show up for exercise or for your lead generation or marketing campaigns and it's day in, day out and you still have a lot to go, So either feeling overwhelmed or feeling boredom, two feelings that will eventually come up. How do you deal with them? When feeling overwhelmed with the grandiosity or length or challenge of the pursuit, scale it down and simply focus only on the next week and achieving perhaps, when it comes to weight loss, 200-gram weight loss or 100-gram, or when it comes to sales, $100 sale or $1,000 sale, whatever that might mean in your business. So scale it down and focus only on what you can control right now and the smallest possible win. And forget about the rest. Just work for this small win. And it is true with Olympic athletes who have big goals, many years it takes to even have a chance to compete, sometimes decades. And so they just focus on the next milestone, on the next workout, on the next training. The same in business. The bigger the goal, the more you'll have to scale down and focus only on the next step, on the next milestone. And when it comes to boredom, I love using the saying, when it gets hard, remember why you started. So when you feel like it might be might be boring, or it even helps with the overwhelm. But especially when you feel that it's kind of like almost meaningless, and you lost the zest, the desire for the goal. You're like, oh, there is still so much to do, like I don't want to do it, like all this procrastination feelings and thoughts. Remember why you started. What are you actually building? The bigger picture, the bigger vision, the audaciousness of it, the transformation that you seek, the meaning to your life, to who you are becoming. Remember that. Let that vision inspire you. Let the bigger purpose inspire you. And all of a sudden, even the most mundane thing like cold outreach will become more inspired and almost soulful. So when things get boring, I guess my version of saying is remember why you started and get inspired by your own visions and aspirations and purpose. And that's about it, folks. We talked about where to start with goal setting and how to set the right kind of goals that are going to motivate you, keep you motivated, keep you going after it. That we talked about strategies to make sure that we use the best kind of tools for the job and how to adjust them as we go, and what to track to keep ourselves again going, motivated and energized, and also what to do when we're feeling overwhelmed and bored. All of these tools, re-listen to this podcast perhaps at the beginning of next year or whenever you're gonna sit down and start working on your goals. So use this podcast again, share it with your friends, perhaps even do like a study group or a goal setting group where you all listen to this podcast and then commit to either work together or separately, but then just keep each other accountable. Work through this process of setting the right kind of goals and putting the strategies in place to have the highest chance of achieving those goals. And most importantly, of transforming yourself and your life in the process. So I'm definitely going to be doing goal setting exercise either at the end of this year or beginning of the next year, and going to be repeating and reviewing my own advice and the best research. So re-listen to this episode as many times as needed. And again, maybe form a study group. And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, with your family, with your kids, with your spouses, so they also from the start understand goal setting process much better. And because of that, we'll have much better, more positive, more effective experience with goal setting and goal achieving. So please do share. That's the biggest thing you can do for me during this holiday season. And what else? Well, stay tuned for the next episode. That's going to be a book study, The PAR Method. It's all about outsourcing your brain, creating more order and clarity in your own knowledge, data, experience, all the files that you keep in your head and on your computer about all the projects and knowledge and all the resources that you need to get your work done or to keep your life going, right? So stay tuned for that. It's all about effectiveness and productivity and creating clarity in your head and in your life. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be either Friday or Saturday. On Monday, it's going to be a guest episode. Stay tuned for that as well. And then we're going to take a short break with the podcast for a week or so before getting into the new season. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Re-listen as many times as you need to set the goals that have the highest rate of success. And till next time, thank you for listening and keep working on yourself. Have an awesome day. Talk to you very soon.